When someone builds a big successful company, it's not common to hear that they're just giving it away. Normally, people love to hoard and protect their wealth, which I suppose is their prerogative. So it's surprising when you hear that the owner of one of the largest outdoor wear brands is not only giving away his company, but giving it away to the earth. So let's unpack what's really happening with this story. By the way, this is only our 7th video on the TLDR business channel, and thus far, 85% of our viewers aren't subscribed, so odds are that you haven't made the leap either. So lend us a hand, hit subscribe, and get more from TLDR business. Okay, so the company in question here is Patagonia. And you might be familiar with their logo and some of their designs, because not only have they been around for nearly 50 years, but they also have hundreds of stores around the world, and their revenue this year is expected to reach $1.5 billion. But let's go through a little bit of their history though, because to understand why the company has been given to the earth, you need to know a bit about their heritage and what makes them unique. As I mentioned, the company was founded in 1973 by Yvon Chouinard, a notable rock climber in Yosemite Valley. And the company was founded with Chouinard's values built in. They were early to issues like organic cotton and childcare facilities, as well as long giving 1% of their sales to charities, and even advertising to tell people not to buy their products and to reuse and repair what they already have. And they meant it too. The brand was able to build a cult following by fully committing to sustainability, offering lifetime guarantees on products, and providing cheap repairs when necessary. And this clearly resonated with people, with sales taking off over recent years and revenue reaching $1.5 billion annually. Which brings us to last week, when it was announced that the company's founder, a man who'd often been described as a reluctant billionaire, said that he would be giving it all away. Instead of selling the company though, which is worth an estimated $3 billion, he and his family transferred their ownership of the company to a designated trust and a non-profit organization. Now, the actual corporate setup is a little complicated, so let me explain. Patagonia, the company, will continue to operate out of Ventura, California as a for-profit company. They'll continue to make lots of money from the sale of gilets, ski gear, sleeping bags, waders, whatever you need for going outside, which, as you can tell by looking at me, isn't really my vibe. Regardless, they'll continue to operate as a for-profit business, making money from their very valuable brand. What is changing though is who owns the business, because as of August, it's no longer the Chouinard family, with them transferring all of the company's voting stock over to the newly founded Patagonia Purpose Trust. To be clear, that's all of the voting stock, not all of the total stock. And that's important because there are loads of different types of stock. Now, we don't have time to get into all of them in this video, but what you need to know right now is that some stock comes with voting rights, essentially the right to vote in general meetings, while other stock doesn't come with that right. In this instance, the family transferred all of the company's voting stock to the Patagonia Purpose Trust, allowing the trust complete control over Patagonia's management and business decisions. However, this stock only represents about 2% of the actual company, with the remaining 98% being non-voting stock. All of that remaining stock then was handed over to the not-for-profit I mentioned earlier, the Holdfast Collective, which means that all of the company's profits will immediately be funneled into the Holdfast Collective, whose job it will be to spend that money on initiatives to improve the planet and tackle climate change. That's not going to be an insignificant amount of money either, with estimates suggesting that this new not-for-profit will receive $100 million each year to spend on the goal. The Chouinard family are still in the picture though, because the family, along with a board of advisors, will continue to oversee the trust, the brain of the operation, to ensure that the company continues to operate effectively and sustainably. and also that profits are being transferred and spent effectively by the not-for-profit. So, now that I've turned this diagram into a horrifying analogy for the human body, let's step back a moment and take a look at the business once again, because this is clearly quite an unusual setup. So, some have questioned if the motives behind this are as clear as they look. The three primary critiques come down to taxes, politics, and PR. Let's go in ascending order of interest. Firstly, some have alleged that the family gave up their business for tax reasons. With Bloomberg reporting, Patagonia billionaire who gave up his company skirts $700 million tax hit. Now, this is kind of true. If Yvonne had decided to sell the company for the estimated $3 billion it's worth, then he would have landed his family with $2.3 billion and would have had to pay the government $700 million in tax. So yes, by doing this, he has avoided that tax, but he's also not sold the company and pocketed $2.3 billion. Also, the family is paying $17.5 million in tax for the 2% of the company that they gave to the Patagonia Purpose Trust. And that's quite a lot of money, considering that they didn't make anything out of the transfer. Now, admittedly, they are paying nothing on the 98% they transferred to the not-for-profit, but that's because the Holdfast Collective is a 501c4, so they don't have to pay a penny for the donation. However, equally, the family can't use the donation of the company as a tax write-off. If they had made the collective a 501c3, then they could have used it as a write-off in their taxes, but as a C4, they're not able to do so. So sure, they didn't pay much tax, but equally they didn't make any money from this. So why would they? Also, it's not like Patagonia is scared of paying tax, with the company holding a long history of paying its taxes and even supporting tax increases that it believes could benefit the planet, including Patagonia's CEO backing a higher corporate tax rate in support of President Biden's Build Back Better plan. But while this isn't exactly a scheme to avoid tax, it's definitely a good setup to ensure political power for the family. Remember a moment ago, I said that the Holdfast Collective was a 501c4. Then you yawned and questioned why you're even still watching this video. Well, the fact they're a 501c4 is important, because it means that the collective is able to make unlimited political contributions. Yep, unlimited. That means that while the family might have given away their power and money in the business world, they still have influence over a trust which will have an estimated $100 million a year to throw at causes. Now, it's unlikely that they'll be spending all of that money on political causes. Don't expect Biden to be brought to you by Patagonia anytime soon. But it does mean they'll still wield immense power without paying any taxes to maintain that power. So while it is a little unfair to complain that they didn't pay tax on a hypothetical sale they didn't make, it's a little more fair to complain that they still retain immense power over politics, despite presenting themselves as just major champions of the environment. Which kind of dovetails into the final issue here, the PR of it all. That's because some have criticised the family for pitching themselves as one of the most generous in history. Maybe some slight hyperbole there. Despite the fact that they still hold a lot of power. Now, I'll let you decide if they deserve credit for this decision, but there are some suggesting that this is just a cynical move, not just by the family, but also by Patagonia, with this decision further bolstering the company's green and ethical credentials and potentially boosting sales. Although, if those sales are going towards improving the environment, it is a little harder to complain. Anyway, this whole situation has caught the world's attention precisely because of how unusual it is. A number of other founders have sold off their company and spent a lot of their wealth on causes important to them. In fact, that's exactly what Chouinard's friend and owner of North Face encouraged him to do. But Chouinard said that he didn't respect the stock market at all. Once you're public, you've lost control of the company, and you have to maximize profits for the shareholder, and then you just become one of these irresponsible companies. And he's kind of right, isn't he? It's hard to imagine, despite endless green rhetoric from other companies, any other business or business owner giving away part of their business, let alone all of it. Although the company's founder is optimistic that his wild decision could start a movement. With him telling the New York Times, hopefully this will influence a new form of capitalism that doesn't end up with a few rich people and a bunch of poor people. We're going to give away the maximum amount of money to people who are actively working on saving this planet. Do you agree with this optimistic outlook, though? Let us know in the comments below. And while you're down there, please do subscribe to the channel. This is a brand new channel for us, so if you want to see more like this and support the channel, then hit subscribe.